Hello everyone. Welcome again to another Narc Survivor live video. Live at the lake. So in this one we're going to be talking about the greatest trick the narcissist ever pulled. Because with this one, they really pulled the wool over your eyes. They completely misled you, deceived you into thinking that you're not good enough by yourself. As though you're better with them, as though you need them. When actually, no. That's not the truth. That was never the truth. You were never going to be better with them. You never needed them. And actually, no, it was the other way around. They were always the ones who needed you. They were always the ones who were better with you. But they didn't even really want to be with you anyway. They just wanted to use you. Many of you mistook what you saw at the beginning, the idealization phase, the love bombing. You saw it as though that was genuine appreciation of you. As though they really valued you as a person. When no, actually, they just envied you. They saw something shiny. They saw something that could be valuable to them. And then they just made a plan about how they were going to obtain it. They planned out how they were going to target your defenses, get you to trust and open up to them, so that they could then have this control over you, to where they would then use you as a source of supply for validation and a sense of superiority. And that's all that it was. And this is the greatest trick they ever pulled. They were never good enough for you. You never needed them. You were more than good enough for them. And they always needed you. But not so much you as a person, because they didn't even see all of your qualities and everything you had, everything that made you you. They didn't see that as a part of you because of their arrogance and entitlement. They just saw it as though that already belonged to them. They envied you. And they were just thinking about how they could get that from you for themselves. So it never had anything to do with genuine appreciation. And this is why, you know, they always needed you to provide them with excessive admiration. You always had to make them feel better about themselves. You had to validate them all of the time. And then whenever you pulled away or tried to spend time by yourself, or just by you recognizing your own worth, they didn't like it. And then they turned against you. They devalued you for that. Because that's just it. By you just looking in the mirror, seeing yourself, recognizing your own worth, and how great you are, they're terrified of you doing that. Because then they already know that you're going to realize that they're not good enough for you, or that you're too good for them. They know you're going to come to that conclusion. And that's why they try to occupy all of your time. They get really close into your space. They're always around you. They're very demanding. And they always get you to constantly praise and worship them. To see them as something larger than life, like they're the best thing since sliced bread. So that all of your focus is constantly on them, instead of you ever reflecting on yourself and seeing how great you are. Initially, when they first get involved with you, they make it all about you. They idealize you. They put you on a pedestal because they're just thinking about everything that you're going to be for them. How you're going to improve their self-image. And that's the only reason why they idealize you initially. And then gradually it just becomes more and more about them. It becomes more and more about what you can do, who you can be for them, rather than it having anything to do with you as it did in the beginning, when initially it was about how wonderful of a person you are. And this is the same thing that happens every time with narcissists. They put the focus on you initially because that's how they get in, while they just give you lies and future faking, false promises about the future. They get in by feeding your ego. And this is always a red flag, you know, when someone's just constantly feeding your ego, just trying to boost you up superficially, but they could never go deeper. It's always just superficial things that they notice to make you feel good about being with them. And then gradually they pull away. They make it more and more about themselves and about everything that you're meant to be doing for them to make them happy and to make their lives better. The problem is, no matter what you do, it's never good enough because they have a void that can never be filled. But yeah, this is the greatest trick the narcissist ever pulled. Initially, there is this illusion of perfection. They present a false self, which is charming, attentive, and seemingly perfect. Because of course, they're just mirroring you. They're reflecting back to you your own interests, virtues, and ideals. They're displaying to you whatever they think you want to see. And what they're not displaying to you is anything they think you might not want to see. So they conceal everything bad about themselves because that's just it. They're terrified of rejection. And for us, I mean, we're okay to open up to them and to reveal our flaws and confide in them. Because our self-worth, our self-esteem isn't that low. Yes, we have some flaws, some imperfections, but we know that we're still good overall. As for these narcissists, their flaws and imperfections are much greater than just something normal. Theirs are quite extreme. And that's why they display a false self. That's why they're so charming and attentive initially. That's why they're all over you like a rash. That's why they're not revealing any flaws to you at the beginning. Because they know if you saw their flaws, if you saw what they're hiding from you, you wouldn't want anything to do with them. You would leave because that's just it. It's those flaws that they have, those issues, are why they're not good enough for you and why you would never need them. And that's why they hide that from you, and instead they just try to present an image of perfection, your idea of perfection, whatever appeals to you, or at least whatever they think appeals to you. But even if initially they display something that isn't to your liking, they will adjust it until they do get a favorable response. They're chameleons, they can become anything. Whatever they think you want to see. But it's fake, it's not real, that's why they can't sustain it. And then that's how gradually with time, especially once you go deeper into a relationship with them, you move in with them, they move in with you, you live together for a few months, get married or have a baby, then you really start to see what they're like. Then everything starts to unfold. You see all of their flaws and imperfections. Whatever you initially saw at the beginning, even if any of it was real, it's just not even worth it. It's not worth it for everything that you have to put up with. But typically, none of it is real. None of what they display to you at the beginning is even them. And typically, it's just you. It's just a reflection of you. It's a reflection of what you like, what you're interested in. They just become that to manipulate you, to lure you in. But they're not really about it. It's not really them. And that's how they can't sustain it. But this is what they do at the beginning. They make you feel like you're missing something, as though you need something from them. When really, they're just presenting this illusion to you. They're pretending to be something that they're really not. And of course, what happens when you start to see through the illusion? When you start to realize, hold on, this person is not who I thought they were going to be. This person is not what they displayed to me initially. They display to me a reflection of my own interests, my own ideals. And then you're just left scratching your head thinking, all right, well, where's that person now then? Because surely, you know, if we're so similar, if we're so alike, if this person compliments me to such a degree, that we should gel pretty well together. So how come that just fades away and then you start seeing all of these flaws? You start experiencing all of these issues with them. If you are really that similar, if you are really that good together. And of course, you know, that's just it. Once you start to see through the illusion, when you start to realize, hold on, this doesn't meet my needs. This isn't good enough for me. This isn't ever something that I wanted. Once you start to realize that, once you start asserting your worth and what you know you deserve, because you know you deserve something better than that. You know you deserve something that is real, that is going to compliment you. Not just lies and future faking. But yeah, once you realize that, once you see through this illusion, this false image of perfection, of ideals, once you see through it, then the devaluation phase begins. Because then they know they have a problem. You're not validating it, you're not believing in it anymore. And they can only keep it going as long as you validate it, as long as you believe in it. Once you start to see cracks in this false image, then it all just fades away. They can't keep it going. It's like you're having to put another coin in the machine to keep it operating. Or it's like a wind-up toy, you have to keep pulling the string. If you don't keep making a consistent effort to prop up the false self, then it all just falls apart. Because it isn't real. That's not really them. You don't really need them. They're not really good enough for you. Think about it, you know, if someone can really fulfill your needs, if they're really good enough for you, you don't have to keep encouraging them all of the time. I mean, there's nothing wrong with an occasional compliment. But it's just a constant thing, and they expect you to see it as a privilege just to be around them. And you constantly have to praise them, constantly lift them up, just so that they can keep the performance going. Because that's all that it is, it's just a performance. It's not even real. And that's why once you start praising them excessively, once you start to see cracks in the false image, you start to see what they're really like, then they start to devalue you. They try to make you think that something is wrong with you now. That now you're not meeting their needs. You're not good enough for them. So now you're the problem. And that's why you don't get the treatment that you got at the beginning. Or at least that's how they want you to think. But really, what you should think is, why do you have to give them so much attention, so much validation and praise all of the time? Why do you have to do everything for them? Just for them to be friendly, be nice. I mean, that really reveals that they never appreciated you anyway, and they did just envy you. They got around you just to take from you, not to support you in any way. But yeah, this is how they end up devaluing you. And they subtly, overtly, or covertly devalue you to create self-doubt. Their goal is to train you to believe that you need them and that you are the one who is lacking. When you just have to look back and remember you were fine before. You were doing really good on your own. You never really needed them. They just trained you to think that you need them when you were fine before. And really it's them who need you. And this is why when you get involved with them, what happens? You lose everything that made you you. Your energy, your confidence, your enthusiasm, your money and resources. Well, they invest very little into the relationship. They expect everything to come from you. But yeah, they entrained you. They conditioned you through manipulation, love bombing, withholding, and gaslighting. And this cycle creates an emotional dependence that makes it hard for you to leave. They just constantly reinforce this belief that you are not good enough on your own. They don't want you to think that you are good enough on your own. And just think about it. What kind of a relationship is that? When someone's constantly trying to make you feel insecure. They don't want you to feel good about yourself. And you really got to question, why would someone do that to you? Why do they have to downplay you? Why do they have to make you feel insecure? And of course, the reason why is because they feel like they're not enough for themselves. And that's why they targeted you. Because they can see that you are more than enough for them. They targeted you out of envy. Of course, they knew that you have your own needs and desires. You have your own expectations of what you want. You want something on your level. And so they displayed a false character to you based on your own virtues and ideals. Because then that's how they got in with you. That's how they got you to give them your time. But deep down they knew all along that they were never going to be good enough for you. They were never going to be what you needed. And that's why, as time went by, and you started to see through the illusion, they gradually began to undermine you, to put you down, devalue you, criticize you, use triangulation, comparing you with other people, smearing your name, spreading gossip about you to everyone, lies and rumors. And some of them even went out and sabotaged you They would even go all out and try to destroy you. In your job, in your work life, your business, financially. They will discredit you. They will turn all of your friends and family against you. And this is all because they can't accept that they're not good enough. They're not good enough, not only for you, but for themselves. And because they weren't good enough for themselves, that's why they targeted you out of envy. Because they thought that if they could take from you, they would then be good enough. Or at least the illusion would be good enough to manipulate other people so they could continue getting supply, and then they would feel good enough for themselves. So that's what they tried to do. And that's what they were doing with you all along. Because I can tell you this, I mean, if you're with someone who genuinely appreciates you, instead of them looking at you and thinking what you got is theirs and how are they going to take it from you, if someone genuinely appreciates you, it's not ever going to be too perfect. It's not ever going to be your ideal. There's always going to be differences, disagreements, conflict. That's a normal part of a healthy relationship. And they're not going to be hiding things. They're not going to be covert. If there's something wrong, if they have a certain flaw, they're going to be able to be vulnerable and express that to you. When someone has an inability to be vulnerable, that reveals that there is a serious problem. And not only that, but those shallow, superficial compliments that you received at the beginning, when you're with someone who genuinely appreciates you, they can go deeper. They can tell you what it is that they actually like about you and value about you, instead of just superficial things like your appearance. But this is what it's like when you're dealing with narcissists. They look at things on the surface. They look at whatever's going to complement them, their false image, because that's all they're concerned about. It's how they can use it to manipulate people. So yeah, these are all red flags. It was not genuine appreciation. It wasn't them genuinely appreciating you as a person. They couldn't go deep. There wasn't any depth or substance to it. They just used it to trick you, to make you believe that they were genuinely appreciating you as a person, and as though they wanted to build something with you. They didn't want to build anything with you. They knew that they couldn't. They knew they weren't good enough to stick around and do that with you. They just targeted you out of envy. Because they know they don't belong anywhere. They know they're not good enough to be around someone on your level. They know that the best it's going to get for them is just to come in as quickly as they can, take what they want, and then just get out of there before you figure it out. And that's the only opportunity that they had with you. And that's why it's exactly what they did. And remember, all they really care about is in the moment. Just instant gratification, validation. As long as I can feel better in the moment. They're not so bothered if you figure them out later. They'll worry about that after. As long as they got that supply for you in the moment, as long as they felt like they had the validation, they had power over you. Because remember, these people are stuck in the past. They're still replaying moments from their childhood when they felt invalidated, when they were neglected, abused. So now they live the rest of their lives looking for moments where they can feel better, where they can feel like they are something now. They're not thinking about long term. They're not thinking about the bigger picture. It was all just about getting what they could from you in that moment, in the shortest amount of time possible. Or they will stick around as long as you're unaware, as long as you don't understand what's going on. As long as you don't realize what they're doing to you. Because of course, if you become aware of it, then that doesn't feel good for them. Then they feel like a fraud, they feel like a cheat, a liar. So they need you to be unaware, they need you to not know what's going on. Because that's how they're going to get what they want from you. You're not going to give that to them if you are aware of their game. If you're aware of the manipulation, then you're not going to validate it. Instead, you're going to invalidate it. You're going to push back against it. And of course, that's when the devaluation phase begins. Because then they're not getting anything out of you. So they have to train you to think less of yourself as though you're the one who's not good enough. It's all a game with them, and it's all because they feel inadequate. And of course they do. They deliberately targeted someone greater than them because they wanted that validation from you. They wanted what you've got. But they can only get that as long as you are susceptible to the manipulation, as long as you're under a spell. Once you wake up, it's no good for them. Because then they can no longer be delusional. You're just constantly reminded them what frauds they are. But you know, let all of that be a reminder to you. When you see them go off the new supply, remember you had to go through. That's their idea of a relationship. Something that superficial. Where it's like, as long as you can get someone to believe in it, as long as it seems convincing, then you can feel like it's real. They're just pretending. It's not actually something where they care about it. Where they actually want to go deep and make it something real. It's all just about convincing you. And yeah, I mean, they typically do a good job of that in the beginning. Convincing us that it's real, and that's what leaves us holding on. They train us to seek something from them. To make us feel like we're inadequate. Like we're missing something, and as though we have to chase after them for their approval. We have to do what they want us to do to be good enough for them. And they train us into doing that by making us insecure. Constantly targeting our self-esteem. So that we begin to seek it outside of ourselves. Because that's what they want us to do. They want to have that control, validation, and a sense of superiority over us. That is their narcissistic supply. And they need that because they feel inadequate. So they've got to get the validation and approval outside of themselves as well. They can't get it from within. We can, and that's why they targeted us specifically, because they could see that we had the ability to give that to them. But of course, for us to constantly give it to them, they had to stop us from constantly providing it to ourselves. So they got us to direct our own self-validation over to them. Because they couldn't get it from within. And they can't get it from within because of their unmet emotional needs in childhood. They were neglected or abused. They went through some things and they've never been the same since that. Now they feel like they're not good enough. Now that's why they do the things that they do. That's why they don't want you to be good enough. They don't want you to feel good enough. It's because they don't. And really just think about it, you know, if they really felt secure within themselves, You really think they'd be treating you that way? You really think they'd be trying to break you down? It's because they don't feel good about themselves. It's because they know they're not good enough. And of course, they're not good enough. Were they good enough for you? Did they meet your needs? Did they even do a fraction of what you did for them? Of course not. And it's because it was all a lie. Everything they displayed to you was fake. They're not good enough. They are inadequate. And they've revealed that by how they treated you. Well, as for you, you just need to put your focus back on yourself. It's a game with them, you know. They constantly train you to seek their validation and approval, making you think that you're not good enough for yourself. You are always good enough for yourself. Don't ever let them make you think that you're not. And it's really incredible how this happens, but all you have to do is just stop chasing their validation and approval. As long as you try to do that, you're never going to feel good enough. You're never going to be good enough for yourself. As long as you keep chasing after them. And the reason why is because they're not good enough for themselves. So they're never going to be good enough for you. All you have to do is just stop and go within. Validate yourself. Find your own peace. I apologize for this behind me. Those of you who are regulars in my life, you will know that they do like to do a lot of strange things in the background. But again, instead of seeking the validation and approval from them, when they're not even good enough for themselves, all you have to do is go within and give that to yourself. Because you have it to give to yourself. Of course you have it to give to yourself. You had it to give to them. And you gave it on such a deep level. It wasn't superficial like with them. They didn't just, or you didn't just give it all and then fizzle out. You kept going. You provided them constantly with supply. The problem is it was never enough for them. They always wanted more because they have a void. No one is ever going to be good enough for them. They're never going to be happy with anyone because they're not good enough for themselves. Well, as for you, once you heal and move on from this, you can find someone who isn't just a fake, who isn't just a fraud, someone who genuinely is enough for themselves and thus will be enough for you. But as for these narcissists, I mean, they're not enough for themselves, and that's why all they can do, they will try and hide or conceal it under manipulation, but all they really can do, they cannot do anything else other than this. The only thing they can do is take, because they're constantly empty. They can only take from you. They can't give anything. They can take from you and then give you a little bit back of what you've just given to them, but they can't actually give you anything. They're completely empty. And this is why they target people like us, because they envy us. They envy that we have something. They're completely empty people. They cannot give you anything. They can't. And that's how, what happens when you get involved with them, they just deplete you. They drain the life out of you. Well, as for you, I mean, you genuinely gave from yourself and you lost a lot in the process. If you're finding this video helpful so far, give it a thumbs up. But yeah, it's the greatest trick they ever pulled, and it's all because they feel inadequate. They feel like they're not good enough for themselves. And that's why they use the entraining method. They train you to seek out of yourself, from them, this validation and approval, or something from them, even just targeting your independence and trying to make you financially dependent on them. They hate your independence because they need you for validation, control, and a sense of superiority. Their entire false identity is tied to you and how you perceive of them. They can't get it organically. They can't derive any sense of self from within. They've got to get it from other people's perceptions of them. And this is why they hate being alone. It just feels like death to them. So yeah, let me know if this is making sense to you in the live chat. Let me know if you have any questions. Dari Hardaway says, keep pushing, Chris, it's working. I'm glad it's working for you, Dari. This is all just about bringing you back to yourself. Helping you to realize that you are enough for yourself and that you don't need anything from them. They train you to think that you need from them because they need from you and they're not good enough for themselves. Just bring the camera over this side because there's a performance over there now. Canadian math dude says, keep a journal. Write the date, time, and everything the narc said to you. Well, I'm sure for many of you, I mean, as I mentioned in my earlier videos, you know, they make it out like things are wrong with you. I mean, if you wrote down what's meant to be wrong with you, it would probably fit on a single sheet of paper. As for the narcissist, it would require a book the size of a Bible. There's so many things wrong with them. There's so many things that they do wrong. So many abusive and manipulative behaviors. And they just don't know when to stop. And they use intermittent reinforcement because they hope that you will forget about everything that was done before. That's what they do. They live in denial. They are in an alternate reality of their own making because they cannot accept the reality of themselves. They can't accept that they're completely worthless people. They can't accept how bad they are. You think you don't like them? They can't even stand themselves. Of course they can't, because if they love themselves so much, why don't they bring everything they've been doing all of this time into the present moment? If they think that they're so great, why do they hide it? Why do they conceal it? Because they know that it's not good. Because they know that they're absolute garbage. That's why they're in denial. That's why they live in an alternate reality. That's why they deny the truth. They can't even just live in the real world. But yeah, it could be very effective for you, as Canadian math dude says there, to keep a journal, write down everything you're seeing from them. Because this abuse, you know, it targets the hippocampus area of the brain. which is involved in learning, memory, and focus. So it will affect your memory, and you may develop a short-term memory. And this is really just your brain's way of protecting you from all of the trauma, from all of the things that they've been doing to you. But if you write it down, you know, it can help you to heal and move past this, because acceptance is a very important part of the healing journey. Luca Nico says, bro, it's time for chicken kebab. I'm actually a vegan, I don't eat meat. But I'm saying underneath Canadian math dude. I don't know if that's a secret reference to Terry Joel Jr. Because I know he says bro a lot in his videos, and he's Canadian as well. I have noticed quite a lot of like covert references to him. But then saying that, I notice he's dealing with a lot of haters too. He does get a lot of stalkers at his channel. That's just how it is. But, you know, together we're going to keep pushing. We've got to keep spreading these messages, because this is our purpose. This is what we're meant to do. Ellie123 asks, Chris, are you in England or still in the Philippines? Yes, I'm still in the Philippines. I haven't been to Britain for about 3 years now. As you can probably see here, it doesn't look anything like a park in Britain. Very different trees. But yeah, I could tell you, you know, these narcissists, they're never going to move on. They're never going to find happiness or fulfillment in their lives. It's never going to happen. Just as they tried to pretend with you. They acted like they were so satisfied with themselves. That's the greatest trick they ever pulled. They can't stand themselves. This is why they lie about everything. They're pathological liars. They're constantly having an identity crisis. This is why they manipulate you. They try and pull you out of character. They make covert references. They triangulate you, compare you, discredit you. They don't want you to be you. Because they're constantly having an identity crisis. Of course they are. You think about all of the things they've done. How can anyone be okay with themselves? How can anyone accept themselves after that? They can't. They can't even be honest about it. They'll never come out and tell you who they are. They'll never give you closure. They'll never be able to bring you the validation that you need, and to just bring a sense of acceptance to you, because they can't even accept themselves. They'll never be able to accept themselves because of the things that they have done, the person that they are. And this is how they're like chameleons, shapeshifters. They're constantly switching up their identity. They're becoming something from one moment to the next. Whatever they think will work with you. But they can't ever be themselves. Jason Baker asks, how do you know they got aware of themselves? I do still hold them completely responsible, but it might be a trauma response from their own psychological issues due to a narcissistic parent. Well, that's just it. I mean, narcissistic personality disorder, even those who have the full-blown disorder, it's very different to other disorders such as autism. Yeah, we can argue that those with autism, they don't know what they're doing. They're not fully in control of their behaviors. But someone with the narcissistic personality disorder, they do know what they're doing. And that's not even a valid case for them in a court of law. Because this is why these disorders, they're separated in the cluster B category, because they are aware of their actions. They are in denial. So yes, they can be held accountable. K. Millo says, you have helped me during some of my darkest moments. God bless you. You're very welcome, Kay. The Jord asks, are Philippine people shady? I'll be honest, I've seen a lot of shady things around here, I guess. I have witnessed a lot of criminal behavior. On multiple occasions, I've had people stealing from me. I mean, pretty much wherever you go, it's like you can't even book a car through the gap, order a taxi, even order food. They will just steal your money. Once you pay for it, they won't give you the change. Or they'll even argue and fight with you and say that it's more than what they initially said it is. Yeah, they have a big problem with theft here. And also, there's a lot of prostitution everywhere. So it's not all good. I mean, it never is. You know, a lot of people, they do idealize certain people and situations because maybe they're not happy where they are. I mean, there's problems everywhere in the world. And then people look to a different place and they idealize it, thinking that it's better. But once you've got there and you spend enough time there, you'll realize it's not much better from where you just were. No place in this world is perfect. There are problems everywhere. I guess the biggest problem is really when people are in denial, you know, when people deny that issues exist. Because if we don't accept it, then how can it get better? But you know, there's always good things that I find in every place. As you will see on my Instagram, you know, I've got so many posts on there of my travels over the past few years. And really what I enjoy most is just my own company. Being away from everyone else and just being by myself. Or being with Nala, of course. But what I found in my own experience is that everyone in this world does have issues of some kind. And most of the people that I've been involved with their issues are just too serious for me to even deal with. Because then it starts to affect me. And it has affected me in so many ways. And that's why I just prefer to avoid most people, because I already know that by getting around them, it doesn't matter what they display to me initially. I already know it's going to come at a cost. It's going to affect me. But yeah, I definitely enjoy my own company. Whenever you see me and it seems like I'm not doing too good or I'm not happy, whenever it seems like I'm in a bad mood, it is always because of someone else. When I'm by myself, I always feel good. I always feel happy. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I mean, you know, many of you, you know my story. Everything that I went through. But even then, I mean, it was because of my exes. I was dealing with narcissists, and then it put me through something. But of course, that then became my problem, and I had to take care of it. And I did. I pulled myself out of it. I pulled myself out of depression, suicidal thoughts. It's what I had to do. And it is what we have to do at some point. We can't just keep blaming other people. We have to accept, you know, it's our problem now and we have to deal with it. And I think that's really what keeps me sane. It's why I'm typically always feeling good. I'm always feeling happy, confident, free. Because I take that accountability, I accept. All right, this wasn't my problem before, but it is my problem now and no one else is going to fix it. I always work through it. But yeah, I find that, you know, typically I'm always in a good mood. I'm always feeling good. I've always got tons of energy. It's just when I get around other people, then they start to drain me because they have unresolved wounds that they're not taking accountability for. And that is the difference. That's why most people will be a problem to you, because they've got unresolved issues that they're not taking accountability for. And they get around you and they expect you to take accountability for their problems with their vessel, when that is not your problem. You can't fix anyone. Now that's just the difference between us and narcissists. Yes, things may have been done to them in their childhood, but that's their problem now. It's their responsibility to fix it. No one else is going to come and help them. Now that's just what we have to accept. You know, most people in this world, they're not empathic, they're not compassionate. They're not even good enough for themselves. How can they be good enough for you, to help you? They can't. But as for all of you who watch my videos and comment on here, I do see a lot of you taking personal responsibility for yourselves now. And, you know, that's a really great thing. That we act differently than these narcissists. And we do try to make things better. Because, you know, you can't depend on them. All they care about is themselves. They could never even correct themselves. Of course, they can't do anything for us. They can't even give us closure. Canadian Math Dude says, actually, I have a strong belief that there's a powerful correlation between autism and narcissism. I mean, of course, some narcissists, they can have autistic traits. People can have multiple traits from different disorders. That is possible. They can be comorbid. But from what I've seen in my research, I haven't seen any direct correlations between any disorders of different clusters. I mean, narcissism and autism, they're not even in the same cluster of disorders. Autism is a cluster A. Narcissism is cluster B. And for me, you know, what I've seen, as far as I know, I haven't known anyone who's autistic, severely autistic. I mean, we can all have like mild autistic traits, but someone who is severely on that spectrum of autism, I haven't known anyone myself, but from what I've seen in videos on YouTube, it does look quite different to me, to narcissism. When I see someone with autistic personality disorder, I see someone who does have a mental illness. Someone who isn't consciously aware and doesn't know what they're doing. While with someone with narcissistic personality disorder, I see someone who's very manipulative and does know what they're doing, but they're trying to hide it. And that's the difference for me. But yeah, keep in mind, you know, the traits, many people can have different traits from multiple different disorders. John Tracy says we sense they're out to get one on over us. Yeah, they're always out to get us. They want us to make them feel better. They want to make us delusional just like them. And then when we start to wake up, then they're out to destroy us then. Amanda Surley says he gave me a box of chocolates, drove 200 miles and paid for hotel and all meals. Do they usually do this? Yeah, some grandiose narcissists, they will. Especially if they don't have many options, they will go all out for you in the beginning. They will do whatever it takes, and that's how many of us end up with them, is because they are willing to do things that most other people would not do. And that's how they stand out. That's how we see them, because they're willing to do things other people are not going to do. And that's what we've got to be very careful of. That's how they get us. And that's why you got to question, you know, when something seems too good, too perfect. Got a plane going over my head right now. Yeah, typically, you know, when something seems too good to be true, when someone seems too perfect, like they're going all out, doing everything they can just for you, that should usually be a red flag. And especially, as I heard from behavior expert Chase Hughes, he mentioned in one of the videos on the behavior panel, another red flag is when someone makes you feel so good when you're with them, but then you feel worse afterwards. And, you know, that really speaks to me because, you know, as I talked about with envy and with certain personalities wanting control, validation, a sense of superiority, you feel like it's benefiting you by being around them, but it's actually an illusion. And really they envy you, they're taken from you. And that's why you then feel worse afterwards. And this is kind of like intermittent reinforcement. They use it on social media, video games, gambling. It's what keeps people coming back. Irregular intervals of punishments and rewards. But yeah, I think that's good for this one. Live at the park for you today. So yeah, I hope this video was informative for you. If it was, you can show your support by giving it a thumbs up, hitting that subscribe button if you're new, and clicking all notifications so that you will be notified when I go live again. You can also donate. My PayPal is paypal.me/Narc Survivor. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I read your comments every day. If you would like guidance to support your healing journey, you can book a one-on-one with me by going to my website. It is narcsurvivor.co.uk. And you can follow me on Instagram to see content from my trip last year when I was in Malaysia. It is Narc Survivor YouTube. Thank you all for joining me on another Narc Survivor live video, and I will talk to you soon.